So this is my day 8 update. I took day 8 off of the fast, so instead of wearing my hunger strike for a fair hearing t-shirt, I am wearing my stop forced mental health treatment t-shirt. Because at the end of the day, that's what I went through. The plea was coerced, the abusive family was kept intact, because they felt it was more important to sedate my child prodigy butt, than actually stop the cause of my apparent symptoms, which was that I was in distress about being abused and trying to get people to do something about it. In fact, I suspect in the early days they thought that was a symptom and tried to alleviate it through sedating me. However, Mr. Shearer admits he was aware of the Munchausen's. Well, he wrote in his records that he thought I was paranoid when I described it, and similarly the physical abuse, though I cannot demonstrate from his records, actually yes I can. I can demonstrate from his records he was aware of the physical abuse too, and he admits he confronted my mother about the behavior. Very important. So they knew I was being abused and yet still tried to treat my abuse reports away as though they were the symptom of a mental illness. I think they did it without thinking, except that they clearly planned out how to coerce a plea, and that's unlawful intent. Even if all they wanted was to keep me in treatment, they violated my constitutional rights for an extrajudicial reason. Mr. Finlaw, that puts the ball in your court. So, why did I take a day off? As I established, this is about the theory of deterrence, which means in order to prevail on a hunger strike, what you have to do is reach a window of time where your opponent is more concerned than you are that he will kill you. Within this window of time, if they have more to lose than you do, by taking the probability that you will die along with the consequences of your death and multiplying them together. Now, I assume that I care about my life a lot more than John Hickenlooper cares about my life. However, I also assume that John Hickenlooper has significantly less risk tolerance than I have, which means that after a certain window of time, they cross over and I'm at a disadvantage. But in that early window, where Mr. Hickenlooper is more concerned than I am that I will die on his doorstep because it might cost him an election, or if he certifies me, that will cost him an election because I'll have to go to a jury trial, and, you know, it was a party initiative to take that away. That might get messy. So as I said, messy in a lawful way, messy in a PR way. There is a window of time where I'm at my prime advantage, and as long as the multiplication of low risk tolerance and high value on human life is higher than the multiplication of high risk tolerance and high value on human life, but in estimation I can push it further, there's a period of time where the game theory of a hunger strike favors the hunger striker, me. And as long as this window is sufficiently before the period of lethality for a hunger strike, it should result in me winning. Now, the idea was that for 21 days I was basically completely safe, and that's easily long enough to get us to an election, but that last 7 days, from 21 to 28 days and on to 30 days before the election, we're getting into a period of time where I'm willing to stomach the risk, but probably the governor is not, and that's right before the election. With these heart palpitations, that seems to change the math some, and I leave it to the governor's game theorists what that does to the math. You have game theorists, right? If not, as long as I'm allowed to work afternoons and, take walks, have some space, if you'll accommodate my disabilities, I'd love to be your game theorist, except I'm not sure you're going to be governor much longer. Anyways, so I'm back. I've resumed the fast. There's ancient tradition which suggests on a long duration fast, taking a day off a week is a good idea. It's in various cultures. Now, most of these fasts were for spiritual purposes or whatever. They weren't to basically hold a public official's duties and their discharge accountable in failure. which is my purpose. I'm not hunger striking for my own benefit. I'm hunger striking to force the state to do its job, something which should be utterly unnecessary but is all the same. So, that's where I'm at. That's my theory of deterrence. And that's why this still works, even if I take a day off a week. If this works well enough and I have to do it a few times, instead of using Gandhi's method of just taking sea salt or the IRA method of just dying by the dozens, perhaps the notion of a 6 day out of 7 long duration, still ultimately lethal fast, but not early lethal, will be a more pleasant way for people to hold their governments accountable. I don't know. I don't break the law. I don't break the written rules. I make sure to comport myself properly. But I think the best way to win is to break the unwritten rules. And sometimes changing those rules is how you accomplish something that previously couldn't be done. And that's what I'm trying to do with this hunger strike. So we'll see if it works. Anyways, day 8 is over. My fast is resumed. I'm back to waiting on the governor's doorstep on day 9, which would be Tuesday. And we'll go from there. Peace, everyone. Hunger strike for a fair hearing. Hold the state accountable. Mental health professionals shouldn't be able to coerce pleas and keep children in abusive homes on the grounds they'd rather sedate them. And Mr. Shearer, I remind you again, when this began, I offered you a simple offer of peace. Write it up in such a way that you admit that plea was coerced so that I could have my innocence back, and I would do my best to spare you. I did that because I thought I was weak. I'm not weak anymore, and Mr. Shearer, you're unfit to practice. Good day. You turned down my offer of peace anyway.